Welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time, welcome to my channel. Today, y'all, I am sharing with you my ancestry DNA results. So, if you want to know who I am, besides just Maryland, then you know you gotta stay tuned. But I've always known that I was an African princess, and this is just further proving that. I took my ancestry DNA results about 5 weeks ago. I took them while I was home in Chicago for the holiday, and I was so excited to do this. The majority of Black people believe that we are descendants of American Indians, and so I've always thought that, but I soon learned that most African Americans, most Black people, have a really small percentage of American Indian in their ancestry. So when I got my results back on this past Thursday, I was scared to open them because I didn't know what it was going to tell me. For 27 years, all I knew was I was Black, and I might have Indian in my blood. That's why my hair looked like this. Jokes. But I just always knew I was Black, and I didn't know anything more. So I went through Ancestry.com, and
All right. Well, I don't think I have to do a great big opening. 'Cause, I mean, can't get any better than that. All she knows is she's Black. She's grown up with the perception that all Black people have some kind of American Indian in them, and then she takes this test, and now she learns about herself. Well, here's the problem. She has no idea what the Supreme Court is. She has no idea that in the 1800s, somebody said, hey, if you're an African American, or if you're Black, you have no rights. There's nothing this is at the time when it's just white and Black people here, there's nothing that any white person will ever have to do for you. Anything that they do for you is will. It is never a must. Now, when you think about, you call the cops because somebody's taking this or that, they don't have to come. They willingly come. Especially if you say, there's a Black person doing something to me, then of course they're going to come. Let me explain something to you. You see that? That's white. You see that? That's brown. You also get people that tell you there's a form of yellow. Also, people will tell you that's a form of red. Orange. Excuse me. You see this table? It is light brown. It is also called tan. Table back here, same difference. A little bit darker than that one, but it's still brown. I'm sorry, there's a whole system of people on this earth that are colorblind. This is a remote control. It's black. This is my hair. It's black and white. But my skin does not match this remote, and my skin does not match this hair. I'm gonna put this camera back in front of this TV. And when you look at her skin and you look at this remote, they're two different colors. Well, here's the funny thing. Being two different colors, they can't hold the same name. You see what I'm saying? So there's an interesting thing that comes up. Now, I want you to watch this. Alright, now, and I want you to keep in mind, if somebody has constantly told you you're a slave, Your history is from slaves. You're never going to be anything but a slave. You either accept that, or you start researching the history of slaves. There's only two options. There's only two options. Because before you were enslaved, you were somebody else. Alright? If you're from Africa, you're from some African tribe. Now, let's listen a little bit more, because a lot of people have this same mentality.
I ordered the DNA kit. It was $89.99, and it has...
I said, dear master, dear people that control DNA results, please, I've been a slave all my life. I've been asleep all my life. I care about tattoos, music, hair care. Not too much else. Can you please tell me something about myself so I can get out of this rut? So my brain can evolve?
Pay $9 for shipping. The kit got to my mom's house in about 4 days after I ordered it. All you have to do is collect your saliva in a little test tube.
You have to spit in a bag. How simple is that? You don't have to go to a graveyard. You don't have to ask your parents what were their father's names, what was their mother's name. You don't have to go to those living relatives and ask them about who are our relatives as far back as you know. You don't have to ask a freaking thing out of anybody that you are related to. All you gotta do is spit in a bag, and they'll tell you everything you want to know, right?
I actually had footage of this, but I don't know where it is. So we're just gonna go on without it. So you collect your saliva, you send it off, and within 6 to 8 weeks, Ancestry will email you your results. So on Thursday morning, I got that email.
All right, you send them $100. They can't even send you a letter in the mail. They send you an email.
I sat down at my computer, I FaceTimed my mother, and I looked at my results. And I was really surprised by what I saw. In the case of 27-year-old Marilyn, her DNA proves that she is 82%, you heard me, 82% connected to the continent of Africa.
All right, congratulations. The white man said he brought you here in chains, dragging you, starving you, and beating you. Look at you today. You're healthy. You know English. And you just found out you are 82% African because of their science. So you find out that you're African now, you're super proud, you start playing African music.
Thought the number was going to be a lot lower. Within that 82% though.
So you're light skinned, you're not even black. See that headboard in the background? You're not even as dark as that. And because you're light skinned, you were shocked because it said 82%. You thought your percentages was going to be lower because you think this is a what? Like mixing two paints together. Yellow and blue make green, right?
The percentages are really small. And so I have 19% Mali,
19 Mali,
17% Cameroon, Congo.
Yeah.
14%
17 Congo.
Ivory Coast, Ghana.
Ghana too.
12% Benin, Togo.
Benin, Togo. Listen to that.
9% Nigeria. 3% African South Central hunter-gatherers.
Ooh, Woo! They done said that they think you was a hunter-gatherer.
7% Senegal, and 1% or less than 1% Africa, Southeastern Bantu.
Woo! Bantu brought in now. They just throwing shit out. Woo, they just saying big names. Big names. Whirlwind. What they say, 7, 8 names and shit. You took a DNA test. They're supposed to tell you who you are. They just said you're an African, Babylon. Right?
2% ethnicity traced to the continent of Africa. 16% is traced to Europe. So within that 16%, I have 5% Western Europe, 4% Ireland, 4% Eastern Europe.
Look at that. Now, let me stop this right now. Because this is a black person who's 82% African. 82% African. And she's black. Right? So, you look like shit today. How exactly do they get these percentages? Have you ever asked yourself, how exactly does DNA work? How is she from this, from that, and from this? Plus European. Does anybody really understand this? I'm about to take you on a little ride. In this little ride, you're going to see a bunch of people that are shocked. Because all these people are gonna say, my results came back and I'm all kinds of mixed and stuff. Alright? Let me explain something to you. It's very simple. If I start here in America and I reproduce with a woman and we're chased out of the place that we started, my son reproduces. We're in a new spot. I die, him and his son goes on. They bury me. One day archaeologists come along and they find my dead body. They have no idea what my name is, anything to do with anything. They just find some bones. Now, they didn't find where I originally started, somewhere over there. They found where I died. Now, my son reproduces. He has a son or daughter. They reproduce. Some of them die in a different spot than I did, in a completely different name. The land I died in was blah, blah, blah. The land I started with was na, na, na. And they found my son. They found DNA that's related from blah, blah, blah in sha-na-na, but it never goes back to la, la, la. You get what I'm saying? You can only understand where your ancestors have died. Your ancestor doesn't cut his hand open and smear it on the wall, and an archaeologist comes along, look, blood, let's see who it was. That's not how it works. You don't make a baby and then rip your skin open and stamp it, and then an archaeologist comes along, look at this box, it's got blood in it, let's test it. That's not how it works. You live where you're born. You either die or you migrate. They take the bones from that spot where your death occurred. And that means you had to be buried. If you were murdered in a mass grave and they burned all the bodies, then there's no evidence you existed. There's no DNA evidence. People that lived in that timeline that knew you, yeah, thousands of years ago, but no DNA evidence today if they burned your body. That means you have to bury somebody in the ground, and the remains must remain to be tested. So when they say, you're from this place, this place, this place, this place, this place. That my thumb could be over there. That means that your family started here and something made them move. And as they tried to resettle, a few generations died there. That's the percentages. And then they moved. You know what diaspora is? Let's say my hand is a flower. You know those little flowers, you blow them and they shoot everywhere? It's a spore. Diaspora. Okay? Now I blow my hand, pretend it's a flower, it's going to explode. When my fingers point, that's different directions. Here. Uncle Bob ran that way, Aunt Jane ran. You start to get it? When something happens so big, when you don't live in a time with telephones and cell phones, when something happens that your life is in danger, you have to run. When you look back, you die. You know that and I know that. You can't run and then go check 2 days later to see who lived and who died. That's how your family separates over time. Uncle Bob knows about a fishing well that's off in the east, and he's going to try to run for that to get away because he knew some places that he could hide, to get away from whatever was oppressing him at the time. You are from a family of slaves. Throughout history, you've been enslaved over and over again, repetitively, for brackets of 400 years. Egypt, 400 years. Babylon, 400 years. Greece, 400 years. Rome, 400 years. Over and over again. History repeats itself with a people that will not accept their God. Now you're confused. You don't feel enslaved anymore. You can make a little bit of money, and you can take this money and you can do whatever you want. And instead of getting a book and sitting down and learning who you are, you take your money right back to your oppressor. You say, can you tell me who I am? Here's the only problem with that. Your oppressor oppressed you for a reason. So asking, help me or tell me, it doesn't seem logical. A system has been set up to hold you back, to marginalize you. These people that you send your money to, they are part of that system. Your forefathers were on this land. So says the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34. They were in what we call Utah. You were given this land. These people that call themselves Europeans, that are not, they overthrew the people that look like you, that live in the Europe area of the world, that came over here with colonization to steal your land if you don't believe in Jesus Christ. Now you're brainwashed to believe in Jesus Christ, and you still don't have your land back. Of course, they're going to call you an African. This Bible promotes that you were born in Egypt, which is part of the continent of Africa. Of course, there's going to be bones of your dead ancestors in that land. In fact, all over that land. It should be no surprise to anyone that is colorblind, that calls themselves black, that through DNA testing they are going to receive an African heritage. Because your ancestors have been all over the world. I have a mother. I have a father. On my father's side, he has a father, he has a mother. On his mother's side, her brother, who is 88 years old. You can find this in my videos. It's oh my God, it's what? Last Christmas, something. Last summer, I'm not sure. 88 years old. 88 years old. My dad's mother, my grandmother. I have the same birthday as her. She was light as butter. I'm sure her brother looks relatively the same. He is Negro, just like most of you. His DNA results come back that he's from the Ukraine. He's completely confused because he's been taught that he's just some dumb African. When the Europeans came here, you were here. Other Indian groups were too. They're the Canaanites. They look nothing like you. They needed a foothold on the land and they made treaties with you because they were starving. Eventually they broke those treaties. To prove they made those treaties with you, they went to war with you and they made a monument called the Seminole Negro what? Indians. Uh-oh. That means that the people that call themselves European, that came over here and conquered us, called us Negro Indians. You cannot be a Negro Indian and from Africa. You're either one or you're the other, or you're going two ways on a one-way street. That's confusion. Do you understand that? It is a trick. If they're going to put money into making a monument to Negro Indians, at the same time that they're putting so much money into promoting you're from Africa, then one of them's a lie. And it's up to you to stop feeding money to these companies that are part of the system that support the lie that you're just some dumb African. We live in a Christian civilization that runs around with what we call a Bible that tells you exactly where you came from. Tells you whom your forefathers are. Now the African's forefather is called Ham. Now the American Negro Indian's forefather is not Ham.
And 3% Great Britain, which means there are only 2% left. And when I saw the 2%,
which means 2% left means they couldn't find the remaining 2%. Which means those people disappeared off the planet. They were either burned, they either died at sea, or they walked with God.
I was like, oh, okay, that's not at all what I was expecting. So the last 2% of my ancestry DNA is Asia, and it is Central Asia. We are talking about the stands, Pakistan, Afghanistan,
No, that's Asia Minor. And you've been tricked again because you won't read. And all you gotta do is know a little bit about yourself. Because in the encyclopedia, you are listed as Afro-Asian. But they don't want you to know you're from Asia because they call Chinese people Asia, even though Chinese people are Canaanites. Afro-Asian refers to persons of mixed African and Asian ancestry. The term can refer to modern descendants of Aboriginal, mostly uncontacted Asian ethnic groups such as the Negritos. Historically, Afro, you do understand that you have an Afro, right? Historically, Afro-Asian populations have been marginalized, pushed aside as a result of human migration, or we could just call it what it is, white supremacy, and social conflict. Now, to call it white supremacy, we ignore what the Muslims did to us, the Arabs, and the Moors or Amorites. Much has not changed for many within the global present-day Afro-Asian populations. Now, there used to be a picture with this, and it showed 12 different types of Negroes. They all tended to look yellow. But the more I promote that encyclopedia article, the more they change it. Soon, it will not be up because they don't want you to know who you are. Let's listen to another person say the same confusing shit. And remember, when you have English DNA, it's not because some Englishman raped your parents. It's because your ancestors' bodies and bones were found on the soil that they call England.
Okay. And it says my sequence similarity score is 100, which means that your sequence is 100% the same as sequences from Bubi and Bioko Island and Takar, Hausa, and Fulani in Cameroon. Well.
So, does she look like she knows what she even read? You pay $100, this is what you're going to get. What I would do is I would do what all these people did, but instead of grabbing a camera, I would get a mirror. And I'd read these results in front of a mirror, just so you can see your own reaction, so you know what the look on your face is when you're confused. Let's go back a little bit.
DNA sequence, you have determined that you share maternal genetic ancestry with people living in 2 countries today. The Bubi people in Bioko Island, Equatorial Guinea, and Takar, Hausa, and Fulani, and the Hausa.
Guyana and Cameroon.
And it says my sequence similarity score is 100, which means that your sequence is 100% the same as sequences from Bubi and Bioko Island and Takar, Hausa, and Fulani in Cameroon. Well, that is really interesting. Okay, so, anyway, it has like the genetic sequencing and whatnot, and I am not a geneticist, so I can't even.
That's right. Now that brings us to topic number 2. I just paid $100 for a DNA test, and then they send me information as if I wear a lab coat. Like I'm supposed to be able to decipher the codes. See, that's the thing. They send you codes. If I wanted to buy an apple, but instead of going to the store, I had to buy it through the mail, and when I ordered 1 apple through the mail, they sent me a barcode instead of the actual apple. Do you know what I'm saying? She's got a skin tone. She has a hair type. She has a height. She has a weight. all these characteristics make up what we call ethnicity. When people do their DNA tests, they're asking for their damn ethnicity. The results tell you where your ancestor died. Your ancestor could have been on some great voyage, died in a land that he don't belong in, and you get results back that says you're part of Pakistan. Your DNA goes back to Rwanda. The Israelites were chased into Africa by the Romans, the ones that survived the fall of Temple. You're getting back Guyana, not French Guyana, so that means North Africa. Cameroon, that means West Africa, by the ocean, where the Romans said they chased you to. But these companies don't pay attention that Romans chased you from Babylon to Timbuktu. They pay attention to the government subsidies that they get back for telling you that you're African. You have the same DNA as somebody living today in some tribe somewhere. We didn't grab them when we grabbed you. You weren't so as lucky as them. They've been free for the last 200 years, but we just went back to get them recently and start enslavement on their little piece of land. See, this is what you don't understand. This all revolves around a Catholic document from the year 1452 called Dum Diversus. What is it called when many people live in one place? It's called diversity, right? Dum Diversus. What do they call people? Since diverse and diversity has to do with people, what do they call people when they're being ruled over? They call them peons, little walking dummies. Dum Diversus, 1452. Enslave them if they don't believe in Christ.
Analyze it. But
Not enslave them if they don't believe in the Creator, the one that created all. Take them down if they don't believe in Christos.
Anyway, this is what the certificate looks like.
That's what she got. You see that Freemason sign in the center? See that upside down V? An A without the line cross? That's a compass, right? You know what a compass is. One end's got a point, the other end's got a pencil, and you draw a circle with a compass, right? Ain't that what it's in there? A circle? She got initiated and she didn't even know it. Hey, Tiffany. That's what it says right there. Tiffany something? You just got indoctrinated.
Looks like. And unfortunately,
think about that.
My name is spelled wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's...
You spit in a bag and they sent you a diploma. Damn it. Pause the video and take 5 fucking minutes to daydream. You spit in a bag for $100 and they sent you a diploma.
Unfortunately, my name certificate looks like. And unfortunately, my name is spelled wrong. Because it's not Tiffany Lewis. But, you know, whatever. It's not a huge deal. And they analyzed it the day before my birthday, which is cool. I was hoping I would get this for my birthday, but it's still here. And, okay, the package comes with, this other stuff, like, I already knew they sell, like, t-shirts. It's so ironic that I share ancestry with people living in Cameroon because my best friend in middle school, her family was from Cameroon. She was born in Cameroon too, but she only stayed there for a couple years. So that is so interesting that we were, bestest bros and not even knowing that.
The worst part about it is, if your family's from Cameroon, that usually means you're part of the people that rebelled during kidnapping. Maroon means to be stranded on an island. And history tells us Cameroon people are famous for escaping captivity. So your best friend in middle school or grade school, whatever, is born in Cameroon, escaped captivity, and for whatever reason, her parents brought her here back into captivity. And yet you have a high DNA percentage with the people that are living there today, alive. Yet all that other DNA had to do with dead bodies. Let's hear what somebody else has to say.
Even so, we're not sure, and so we're not gonna verify it for you. I think that's pretty honest.
Bear with me, she kind of mumbles a little bit.
So, I think it's pretty cool that they do that. Like, oh, you might be this, but we're not sure, and so we're not gonna verify it for you. I think that's pretty honest. And so basically I got 43% African, which that wasn't too shocking. I was kind of shocked that it was lower than the European, but I'll get to that. I got 22% Ivory Coast / Ghana, and then I got 3%.
So I think this is kind of funny because so she says she's 43% African and she thought it would be higher or lower. Let's hear that again.
The European, but I'll get to that. I got 22% Ivory Coast / Ghana, and then I got
Gotta go back a little bit more. Sorry about that.
But I'll get to that. I got 22% Ivory Coast / Ghana, and then I got 3% Africa, South Central hunter-gatherers, which verify it for you. I think that's pretty honest.
Ivory Coast, 23%.
So basically I got 43% African, which that wasn't too shocking. I was kind of shocked that it was lower than the European, but I'll get to that.
So her European percentage is higher. And she doesn't expect that, I would assume, because of her hair.
I got 22% Ivory Coast / Ghana.
22% Ivory Coast / Ghana.
And then I got 3% Africa, South Central hunter-gatherers, which I was like, what is that? I guess it's like some nomadic trade. And then for trace regions. So, hunter-gatherer would be a section of time, right? During the time of hunter-gatherer. This is the time when they don't believe that we built houses or anything like that. So they're talking about ancient history. So they believe her ancient blood is from this, hold on, what area? South Central hunter-gatherers, which...
South Central Africa hunter-gatherer.
What is that? I guess it's like some nomadic trade. And then for trace regions, I got 7% Congo, 5% Togo, 2% Southeastern Bantu.
Bantu, Kovo, and Congo.
2% Senegal, 1% Nigeria, and less than 1% Mali.
Mali, Senegal, and forgot the last one, but you can hear all these countries brought up. Now, of course, you're thinking, wow, she has very light skin, so it would be not far-fetched to think that all those people have been in her DNA. Look, you've got to understand, not to sound completely perverted, you've got to understand, when you hear these things read off, oh, I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, it sounds nasty. It sounds like a group of scientists cut up DNA and put it into one person. It sounds perverted. Take the scientists out and put the donors in a circle. That's how it sounds. They're not telling you this is based off of death. This is based off of, I was out digging in your ancestors' graveyard. If I go to any of these European graveyards and start digging up shit, they'll call police. They'll call me a grave robber. These people go ask permission from their masters who rule over us. They give them the green light and they go dig up our dead. These people claim they're from Europe. The hell are they doing digging stuff up in Africa? They claim they're from Europe. Why are they in the Middle East digging stuff up? This is the things you have to think about. They're setting up history. The version they want us to agree with. Their ancestors wrote completely different things. If you watch my videos, you see I read from what their ancestors say when their ancestors call us the Israelites. They knew who we were when they came here. They knew who the other Indians were when they came here. They knew the people that call themselves Asians today aren't Asians.
And then that is all over the place. And also, Ancestry does this thing where it's like also found, this gene is also found in like Mali or so, because I think it's kind of hard to really guess what countries Africans are from, because they're so nomadic for so many years. I don't know. That's just maybe I'm wrong. And for Europe, I got 56%. Like, I was kind of shocked. I was not really expecting it to be that large. I was kind of expecting it to be like 50. But I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of 50. But
well, that's the thing. That means a higher percentage of your ancestors died on European soil. That does not mean in your blood is European blood. Now, if your relatives are European and you know that, that could also mean a higher percentage of their relatives died on European soil. Two people come together and make your mom. Two people come together and make your dad. That's a total of 6 people that came together to make you. Each of those people have, to a great degree, different backgrounds. You should start worrying when people's DNA come from one place and one place alone.
either way, I got 26% Great Britain, which shocked me because I was not expecting that. My mom was always talking about how Irish she is, so you're more British. I got 10% Iberian Peninsula, which I didn't know what that was, but I guess it's like
Spain and Portugal and southern France, the area of Gaul.
Portugal, Morocco region, so like southern Europe.
Morocco's on the other side of the water. That's part of Africa. Alright, let's watch somebody else's.
My DNA makeup is, or where my ancestors are from, or what my DNA matched with what parts of Africa. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to it. So it says I am 88% Africa. Okay. 31% Benin, Togo. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, I did a very, very quick search on Benin, Togo, because I don't know hardly anything about it. But what I did read is that it is like the birthplace of voodoo. Ooh. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I am 17% Ivory Coast, Ghana. 12% Nigeria.
Now, anybody notice like how her features are? Just the slight slanted forehead, the slanted eyes. Now, when I go to the term Afro-Asian, it is not that hard to see, is it?
10% Cameroon, Congo, 8% Senegal, and 4%.
Wait a second. Hey, anybody hear anything funny?
2% Senegal, 1% Nigeria, and less than 1% Mali. And then that is all over the place. And also, Ancestry does this thing where it's like also found, this gene is also found in like Mali, or so, because I think it's kind of hard to really 2% Southeastern Bantu, 2% Senegal.
Um, 10% Cameroon, Congo, 8% Senegal, and 4% Africa, South Central hunters gatherers. So,
so now you see this light-skinned girl and you see this dark-skinned girl are from the same fucking place. Alright? Now this shit's starting to get stupid. Pay $100 and get the same treatment. I hope they got a degree. Like this chick got a diploma. She's from Senegal. She's from Congo too.
100% the same as sequences from Bubi and the people in Cameroon.
She from Cameroon too. She got a plaque. She got a certificate. Look, she got a nice book to read out of and shit. What did you guys get? You're from the same place.
And then I got 3% Africa, South Central hunter-gatherers, which...
3% South Central hunter-gatherers?
Is that it is like the birthplace of voodoo. Ooh. I was like, this is what Ancestry.com said that answer all of that for me, but I'm going to try. It says Europe, 12%.
No.
Is Africa. And then here, which I don't quite understand, I think I might call them and ask a couple of questions. I don't know if they are able to answer all of that for me, but I'm going to try. It says Europe.
No, I don't want to get to your part.
Or where my ancestors possibly can be. I am definitely going to said that my DNA matched, or where my ancestors possibly can be. I am definitely going to South Central hunters gatherers. So
that's what I'm looking for.
Africa, South Central hunters gatherers. So
I was like, what is that? I guess 3% Africa, South Central hunter-gatherers, which...
Like, come on, man! Like, are they reading from a script? Are they reading from a script? Percent Senegal, percent Congo, percent Mali, percent Maroon. Africa, South Central, LA, hunter-gatherer. Are you listening? Is the volume up loud enough? Can you? I almost poked my brain that time. Can you hear the psychoticness is going on? through the screen. They're saying the same thing. The exact same thing. They don't even look alike. They don't even look alike. And they're saying the same thing. Does anybody find that kind of weird? How are these people anciently from the same fucking places and they don't look alike? Do me and you look alike? Do we have something hated in common? You know, if I get my DNA test, they're gonna fucking say Senegal, they're gonna say Mali, they're gonna say all kinds of shit that these people, they're gonna say hunter-gatherer, South Central, LA, Africa. They're gonna say the same thing. Do you get what's going on? I'm gonna show you more videos. When they say the same thing, I'm probably gonna be bad DJ and go to another video and play the same thing, and go to another video and play the same thing. Do you get what's going on? It's called the runaround. Why would I tell you the truth if I can keep stealing from you? These people got to run around, and they haven't taken the time to compare their fucking online results to the next person's online results. The problem is, this is Ancestry, 23andMe. The other one is what? Ancestry DNA tests. You know, what's the other company? It just says African DNA test. So that's the African one. This is Ancestry, Ancestry.com. 23andMe, Ancestry.com, and African DNA fucking results give you the same results. No matter what you look like. No matter who your fucking ancestors were. Because either we were all together, always, throughout history, or they're giving us a script. Now, we're all intelligent in our own way. It doesn't matter who's watching this video. It's time that you decide. When you pay money for DNA test results, historically, have we all been together, side by side, and not known it? Or we've been handed a script to hide our true identity. You need to deeply think about this. Because if you think this is a light subject, it's not. Now, I might show you just women, but you think it doesn't affect men?
Took about a month and a half to get my results back, but from my results, it's very interesting. I was really shocked, but happy. So I'm just gonna read off my results, and then you guys can feel free to comment. Okay, so Africa, I got 82% African. That surprised me the most. I was thinking about 70% African because my eyes are green. I have a red beard, mustache. You know, my mom is really fair.
You hear him? He said, I have a mustache. Africans don't have mustache. Did you notice that? He's saying, I have these phenotypes. How can you label me African? I'm kind of shocked, but you're the one with the rule book, so I'll just learn. So is he learning, or is he being taught a lie? Green eyes, red hairs. Ain't that the biblical description of Aaron? I'm sorry, isn't that what's in the holy books that are taken out of the Bible by the Catholic Church, thee who have enslaved you? Didn't they take out those books and place Greek books in, Greek and Roman books in? They took Hebrew books out. They took black man books out of the Bible to place white man books in the Bible. That's what you call the New Testament. Caucus writing. How many times do we start this with black people or people with dark skin or melanated skin and wool hair, and they say, I was surprised.
African. That surprised me the most. I was thinking about 70% African because my eyes are green. I have a red beard, mustache. My mom is really fair complexion. My sister is really fair complexion.
That means yellow.
They both have bluish greenish eyes. My uncle is really fair complexion. He has.
So he's telling you he's got people in his family that are melanated. They have different color eyes than Africans. And they're yellow. Or light complected. 20. They look like me.
Bluish greenish eyes. My granny's real fair, but she doesn't have colored eyes. There's been a lot of talk on my mom's side that they have Native American and all this other stuff. So for me to get 82% is really high, but I'm happy with it.
It's really high for his uneducated opinion, because even I am ignorant to DNA to an extent. I mean, it's obvious how you get DNA. They're not going around taking blood samples from living people. I mean, they are, but to a small degree. Not everybody consents to that. In fact, a high portion of people say no. They have to make bribes. Listen, you want to know how they know if you are blood related to a tribe today? This is what they do. They go out to a place that's third world or second world community. They go to a tribe that's living off the land. They go and they dam up the water supply to cut the tribe's water supply off. So when the tribe is starving out, then these humanitarians come to save the day, and they negotiate bullshit like, okay, we'll help you if you take these. They'll give them different types of fucking medicine like Tylenol and stupid shit and gauze and shit, and you let us take pictures giving you this. We give you water, you give us blood samples, we inject you with shit, vaccines, we experiment on you. They don't outright tell them. How do you do commerce with tribal mentality? You trade, right? They dam up the water supply, they chase out the food, and that fucking tribe will do anything. You're now the king of the tribe. Don't you get it? Cleveland Browns. What is that? It's a football team, right? Cleveland Indians. It's a baseball team, right? Now combine the fucking name. You damn morons. Cleveland Brown Indians. They got Cleveland Brown on the Family Guy show, right? Where they always show him naked in the tub, as his house always seems to fall apart. The black man's house always seems to fall apart. Let's continue watching
I got 18% European. So I'm gonna read off my percentages. So 82% African. I got Ivory Coast, Ghana, 37%. I got Cameroon, Congo, 22%. I got Senegal, 9%. And I got African, Southeastern, Bantu, 8%. My trace region for Africa are 4%, Mali, 1%, Benin, Togo.
Well, come on.
This is what Ancestry.com said that my DNA matched, or where my ancestors possibly can be. I am definitely going to do a lot more research in these different areas of Africa. And then here,
hold on 1 second.
This is what Ancestry.com said that my DNA South Central hunters gatherers. So this is what Ancestry.com said that possibly can be. I am definitely going areas of Africa. And then here, which I don't quite understand, I think I might call them and ask a couple of questions. I don't know if they are able to answer all of that for me, but I'm going to try. It says Europe, 12%. So Ancestry.com said that my DNA matched, or were my ancestors. And 4% Africa, South Central, 10% Cameroon, Congo, 8% Senegal, and 4% Africa, South Central hunters.
My bad. I was looking for the part where she says Benetoga. Come on, you heard that.
So, this is what Ancestry.com.
Europe.
12%. So I don't know, if that has anything to. Well, I guess it does have something to do with me, but I just need to dig a little deeper to try to figure out and be a little bit more accurate when I talk to different people about it and stuff like that. So it feels good to know. It feels good.
Excuse me, I've lost the spot.
What parts of Africa? So I'm just going to go ahead and get to it. So it says I'm 88% Africa. Okay. 31% Benin, Togo.
Oh shit! It's all the way in the beginning. All the way in the beginning. I was looking at the end of her reading. I'm sorry.
Benin, Togo.
Okay. You guys are from the same place, right?
Percent Benin, Togo. I hope I.
Okay. You're either from the same place or it's a script.
Benin, Togo.
All right.
1% African North and 1% Nigeria. So that's all my African.
Let's hear it again.
Bantu, 8%.
Let's hear it again.
Ivory Coast, Ghana, 37%.
Ooh, Ivory Coast, Ghana, 37.
Lower than the European, but I'll get to that. 22% Ivory Coast / Ghana.
I mean, at first I was mad about this shit. Now it's fucking funny. It's
22% Ivory Coast / Ghana.
Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Ivory Coast, Ghana, 37%.
Come on, alright, let's hear the next person. Oh, this guy's great. You gotta, okay, like, I love the ones that have black people on them, and I love them especially if they're under 6 minutes, because, like, if I produce music, I would string this together, and this would be the DNA line.
That, of course, I'm black, European,
You're
Indian.
Your hair is black. You have the most beautiful chocolate skin ever. You're sitting there calling yourself black. You look like dark gold, buddy. You're like a damn candy bar. Yeah, chocolate ain't black, dude. What's wrong with brothers?
Heard in the grapevine and in the air that, of course, I'm black, European, Indian, or Native American, and Spanish ancestry. So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of excited about my results, so I'm kind of want to see what they are.
So he didn't even read his results yet. He's just telling you like his beliefs.
Well, from what my family says and what I've heard in the grapevine and in the air, that of course I'm black, European, Indian, or Native American, and Spanish ancestry. So
his family, through the grapevine, already told his ass they from Europe. When they tell him he's European, he thinks he's got white blood. He's not thinking my ass. My ancestors' flesh of their ass has sat in Europe. Look at how he rolls his eyes, because he don't understand what they're saying. Because when it was passed down to them, they didn't quite understand.
And what I've heard in the grapevine and in the air, that of course I'm black, European, Indian, or Native American, and Spanish ancestry. So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of excited about my results, so I'm kind of want to see what they are. So go to the link, pull it up. Yeah, I'm seeing how close everybody is, and hopefully everything is right. Okay, it's loading up. Okay, let me hit the ethnicity estimate. Okay. Well, there are a lot of surprising things on here and stuff I already knew. Obviously, it says African 73%. I thought it'd be higher, so.
So, you know what would be great? You know what this reminds me of? You know that Key and Peele episode where they do, what is the leaf? Is it Ancestry? They do Ancestry.com, and all the white people say they go back to these great people, right? And all the black people say, I go back to Thomas Jefferson. You know, it's not like Thomas Jefferson had sex with all the slaves or anything like that. It's just that everybody's DNA, everybody's ancestry, you can't find the history of who your forefather was before Thomas Jefferson, because at that point you didn't have English names. You had Indian names. This was the time of the Gullah Wars, or the guerrilla wars that were here in the United States. So it reminds me of, at the end of it, when they get that little Brady Bunch picture, and everybody talks at once, and you can hear people say different things, but the main percent of the group says, I belong to Thomas, or my DNA goes back to Thomas Jefferson, and they all say it at once. It sounds like a choir. That's what this reminds me of. Each person has said, I'm shocked by the results. They all expect the results to say African. None of them expect the results to say European, because they don't have history of Europeans in their blood. So without them understanding it has to do with the bodies being dug up on that soil, and then that DNA being collected and added into the archive. That's how this is registered. Now it reminds me of Key and Peele, because they say, I'm from Benetoga, I'm from Mali. 2% this, 8% that. But they're still all saying the same names. In some degree, they're in the same order. When they're not in the same order, they're reversed. She said Benetoga last, he said Benetoga first. Ten little Indians. That's what it's called in America. where the Europeans, or them that call themselves Europeans, overthrew the Indians. In Europe, their first colonization settlement, the book from the same author is called 10 Little Niggers. I didn't write the book. I don't even like telling you about the book. I just like proving my point.
I think I'm more European than I thought. Yeah, European, 24%.
Yeah, who is gonna look at him and think anybody in his family is European? Now, dear viewer, two different sides of this. Either somebody in his blood is European, a male or female. It's supposed to be mitochondrial, so it's supposed to be female DNA. So 24% of his lineage is Caucasus, or 24% of his ancestors that died on European soil. Which one sounds more logical and feasible?
I guess my dad is mixed. Okay, let me go through the breakdowns.
So again, it's mitochondrial, and he's worried about his father's input from his mother's. You get what I'm saying? It's not a paternal test. It's not a father test. It's not the Adam test. Remember when they test for the male inside of you? It's called the Adam test. The Eve test is called, what, mtDNA or mtRNA or something like that?
For 73% is Nigerian, 44%. Ivory Coast, Ghana, 9%.
Ghana.
Benin, Togo, 7%.
Benin, Togo.
Cameroon, 6%.
Cameroon. So you see the same shit that the last 6 people said? Last 5 people said? I'm sorry, his order is a little bit different than what they said. Same places.
Senegal, 6%. And African South Central hunter-gatherer, 1%. So
when the fuck have you ever heard African South Central hunter-gatherer until today?
My family comes from, or my ancestors come from Nigeria, because that's 44%. And all the other ones I listed were in the single digits.
That just meant they spent more time in Nigeria. That don't mean that they necessarily from Nigeria. That means a greater percentage of your family lived and died there. Whether they died all at once, or whether they died over hundreds of years, is two different things. The smaller percentages in the other places, the same, how shall we, stencil, the same pattern goes on that. If it's a small percentage, that just means a few people died there.
So let's go to a surprising one. Asian. There's Asia 4%. Asia South, Asia East, and West Asia.
That means your ancestors' dead bodies were found in those places of Asia during a specific time period that will match history during the time you are labeled Afro-Asian. But paying these companies, you ain't gonna find that. You're only gonna find that through reading.
Now let's see what these entail. Gosh, I didn't Now, my family definitely has some explaining to do because I was not expecting this at all. 4%. Okay.
You were not expecting to find that your family was chased all throughout the fucking earth. Let me explain something. Here's how life goes. If you live in a warlike society, you're always sitting around with a weapon in your hand. If you live in a peaceful society, you're always doing peaceful shit. If a warlike society comes into your land to steal from you, when they come, they're coming with weapons in their hand. And you're going to be doing peaceful shit when they come. That means when you see them coming, you drop your peaceful shit and diaspora. The ones that didn't see, the ones that were still doing peaceful shit when they came up with weapons, they died there. And they were buried there to show that your bloodline touched those places throughout history. They just said you were basically all over the world. Yet they didn't tell you how much the percentage of your family died on American soil. They didn't tell you, 62% died on American soil. 31% died on American soil. They said, here's 100% of you. You're one, so here's 99%. 70-something, 79 is from Africa. 20 is from Europe. Well, if I'm just the one left over, that's 100. What about my dad, my mom, my grandparents that have been on U.S. soil, as we call it? Why do they not make up a percentage? If they're doing DNA, then your blood relatives are right here. On that paper should say a percentage of what is American. Not if it's a lie. He's from the same places historically the other places are from, except for his blood goes back to China too. Or Asia, like the girls did. Like the first girl.
India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka.
His blood also goes back to Pakistan, like the other guy that started talking about Asia but said Pakistan area.
I was not expecting that at all.
That means one blood group is older than the other blood group, or one blood group took a different direction. If all of you have the same hunter-gatherers, South Central gene, then you all started with one ancient ancestor, so to speak, out of the hunter-gatherer period. You go to a search engine, type in hunter-gatherer time period, it's going to give you a date. That means you either have one joint relative or a tribal joint relative, but from the same area.
I guess that's like China. Yeah, Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea.
His blood goes back to Russia too. Just like my father's mother's brother, which would make the same as my father's mother.
Mongolia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Singapore, and all places.
Do you hear that? His relatives dead, from my understanding, his relatives' dead bodies are littered throughout that area. That is what you call a route. Now listen again.
I was not expecting that at all. Asia East. Yes, and it's like China. Yeah, Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Singapore.
That's all Asia Minor and Asia going up the farthest west coast, up into what? The Great Highway, the land bridge, where they would come across from Alaska, where we would come across from Alaska and down into the United States. That's DNA evidence that his ancestors have been over there anciently.
Yes, and it's like China. Yeah, Russia,
You
China.
know this brother done been in slavery for the last few hundred years. You know his DNA isn't recently from China. You know his ancestors didn't recently die in China over there. That is what you call a path of dead. You can trace his dead all over the when you're looking at the map of Asia, all over the right hand side going north.
North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Singapore, and all places around that area.
In all places around that area, as if his ancestors lived and died all throughout Asia and Russia, like he said himself, because that's what they have in writing. Now, that is very different from the rest of the script. That shows his ancestors didn't just go from Africa to Europe to America. It shows that his ancestors went from Africa across to Asia, probably through the Silk Road, because he's not saying, does he say Pakistan?
Definitely has some explaining to do, because I was not expecting this at all. 4%.
If he starts naming the stand countries, yeah, it's time to get a world map now. No, that's not what I want. Give me a map of Asia. Let's see Asia. World map. Images. Images, there you go. So, if he reads off, now you can see how big China is. Alright, this isn't some joke. So when he starts naming off all these places, even Mongolia, we know this area is Russia today. Oh, there's Russia up there, excuse me. So, you're talking about being littered all over this end of the map. If he says any of this Kazakhstan, Iran, or any of that stuff, then you'll know taking more of a route like this. If not, he's taking more of a route like this. We're meaning his ancestors. You know, he didn't. Sorry, one more time.
Mix. Okay, let me go through the breakdowns. For Africa, for 73% is Nigeria, 44%. Ivory Coast, Ghana, 9%. Benin, Togo, 7%. Cameroon, 6%. Senegal, 6%. And African South Central Hunter-Gatherer, 1%. So I'm guessing my family comes from, or my ancestors come from Nigeria, because that's 44%. And all the other ones I listed were in single digits. So let's go to a surprising one. Asian. There's Asian 4%. Asia South, Asia East, and West Asia.
So Asia is 4%. Now you heard Africa, right? It was 70 or something like that. Now Asia, he has 4% in Asia, 70 in Africa. I mean, 70% of the dead bodies, 70% of his DNA match dead bodies in Africa. 4% match in Asia. Now listen to all the countries that are listed. Like, you know, we're talking, you know, over, you know, man, whatever lives before man is one thing. Man lives roughly, you know, 6,000 years. So out of 6,000 years of bumping and grinding, look at all these places that are named within 4% of his DNA.
Now let's see what these entail. Gosh, I didn't. Now, my family definitely has some explaining to do because I was not expecting this at all. 4%. Okay, Asia South. That's India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. At all. Asia East. Guess that's like China. Yeah, Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Singapore, and all places around that area. That's crazy. Where is this Asian coming from? Or Asia? Yeah, and now West Asia. What is this? Caucasus. This is surprising. What the hell is Caucasus?
Alright, you know what I would like to do is, Caucasus, the Caucasus Mountain area. Well, that's still Russia. But like, what I would like to do is I'd like to be able to be like, bing, 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 as he, you know, says all these things, but it's just impossible. So he says India, Bangladesh, I think he said Thai and Lao. Here's Lao right here. So you can see as he starts naming these, they're all in the outskirts, and then he starts naming places up. Alright, here's North Korea, here's South Korea. North, South Korea. Northern, Southern Korea. Alright, the only place he's not saying is Japan, Philippines, shit like that. Alright? Again, man, a visual makes a big difference. I'm just trying to give you a visual as he says this stuff. You know, it's one thing to sit there and say, hey, you know, my ancestry came back from Africa, I'm black, you expect that. It's another thing not knowing that you're actually Afro-Asian, because it's the ancient Chinese secret. Okay? The ancient Chinese secret is Chinese are African. The Bible calls them the people of sin. People of sin. Alright? That's what they're called in the Bible. Now, today, I'll just show you with words. They went from S-I-N, make it real big. They went from S-I-N to S-H-I-N. Now they say shin shin when they say something good or bad. Or they apologize or say excuse me, shin shin. Or if they're in agreement, they say shin shin. Now this is the name of their forefather from the Bible. It is Sin. And his people group are called Sinites. Okay? Now, make this real big, because I don't want anybody thinking I'm playing with their mind or nothing. Now, they took the name Sin, they added an H, and as time progressed, they added an A. And they were called the Shina instead of the Shinites anymore. Now, as they had different types of families fighting for rulership, one family gained power and pushed all the families under one nation, and they changed it to China. And today we call them the Chinese. Now, Chinese have an ancestor called Shin, and his religion called Shinta. Oh, no you didn't, motherfucker. Take your ass back. Oh, you playing games. Oh, you see that? It says Shinta what? It says Shinta something, man. I missed it. I'm gonna have to see it when I play this back. Okay, so listen. To prove that they're the people is Shin. We live in a Roman society under Roman rule. So when we look up Shina, this is what the Romans say. Now, you can't say I'm part of Rome, but I don't believe what Rome say. Shina, a Romanized Japanese transliteration for the Chinese character compound. Now it's for this. It's Japanese translation of Chinese words, which in connection with usage by Japanese, that means when the Japanese say this Chinese word, is now viewed by most Chinese people as offensive. Get it? It's a Chinese word, but when Japanese people say it to Chinese people, it's a slang. It's not a slang Chinese word, but when Japanese people say it to Chinese people, it's insulting. That's like a white man calling black man nigger. That's like an African calling a black man nigger. Because the African know you ain't African. It is an offensive term for China. Originally, a word used neutrally in both Chinese and Japanese, the word gained a derogatory tone due to its widespread usage in the context of the Second Shinto-Japanese War. This is their ancient name. And because of what's depicted in the Bible, it is embarrassing to them. Chinese and Japanese look alike, right? That means they're related. The Romans knew that. These are Romanized Japanese transliterations for Chinese character compounds, which in connection used by Japanese are now viewed by the Chinese as an offensive term for China itself. You get it? Shinta is a term for China. Sinna. They're not coming straight out and telling you, yet they just did. It's an offensive term for China. Why did they say Chinese here and Chinese there, but then they just say China? Why? China is a soil. China, the soil, is never offended. I've never heard the soil anywhere say it's offended. I see holes open up in soil and I don't hear words. Because they're trying to trick you in the sentence. It's an offensive term for Chinese people when said by Japanese people. Because they're calling them their ancestor's name. So the Chinese aren't even Asian, they're African. Oh, just in case you're not familiar with the Bible, that's just sickening. Black people that don't know the Bible. It's about you. Sit around and call yourself black. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Genesis 10. So we go to Genesis 10, right? And I like the Bible Gateway. Is it Hub? I like Bible Hub. It shows you all of them. Genesis 10 is a funny one. Oh, because I didn't put a verse in. Good KJV. So, that will give away. Here we go with Genesis 10, right? And we're gonna go. Now, these are the sons of the Gentiles that rule over us right now. Genesis 9 tells you that children of Japhet will dwell in the tents of Shem. Alright? Now these sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Put, some are Negro, some are pale, meaning Caucasus, and some are Mongoloid. Now, we go down here, and Canaan is cursed because his father Ham does sexual acts on his father Noah. Now, if you don't believe me, read Genesis 9, and when it tells you in the precept that he sees him naked, or he sees his nakedness, the precept takes you to the sex laws in Leviticus. So when you see the precept for Leviticus, follow it and read and discover for yourself. Now it says, and Canaan begot Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, the Moors, and the Hivite, the Archite, and the Sinite. That is Chinese right there. That is Chinese. So the Sinite looks like that, and the Amorite is the Moroccan Moor with an afro. You do not see the Hittite. You see the Hivite. You do not see the Hittite for some reason. But the Hittites are also of the bloodline of Canaan. I do not see it. Okay. But I've always told you about John Campbell. Hittites in America. And you see the microform or the open light Campbell, John Campbell. And he'll tell you in his own writing, it's going to be one of those funny ones. We'll get another one. Try that one. ECO John. Yeah, that one's good. So yeah, that's order the book. John Campbell. In a paper recently read before the Canadian Institute, I set forth the radical unity of the Peruvian vocabulary with that of the Iroquois Indians, right? This well-known North American family might naturally be expected to connect with the Basques. Now, Basques is kind of funny because when you type in Bisque, that's the color of bisque. Hence, some is pale, some is red, orange. This is the same color that we find some Caucasians. This is the same color that we find the people that say that they are Asians. This is almost the color of some Indians that are darker but not yet red. He says he's connect with the Basques since the Huron god Tawaskara and that's actually Astaroth. Like when you chase down who, because they give his name down here, Aahahahahaa or something like that, but it's actually Ashtar, which is God lightning. So it says the following table shows how valuable an adjunct to ethnological research, that means their ethnicity, ethnological search, mythological and tribal names are, and how great is the vitality of the words even under what are generally supposed to be the most unfavorable conditions. What he's saying is these two people are far away and they don't get along. Their words sound alike, but they're not that alike, yet they can communicate with each other. This is the same way like people of Great Britain communicate with people of Scotland. They talk. The accents are different. They're saying kind of the same words. Judged by the vocabulary, there are few languages which exhibit relationship more perfectly than those widely separated tongues, the Basques and the Iroquois. And it must be remembered that their grammatical systems, while not agreeing in all points, are far from discordant. Discord means, out of tune. It's far from out of tune. Meaning, when they talk about the same things, it's harmonious. Their language makes a harmony. Just like when you have a European, so-called European Englishman talk, and you have an American Englishman. They say the same damn words, it's just different accents. And that's not quite what he's saying, but it's pretty much close to what he's saying. It's as close as you're going to get an example. It says, Vasquez, an Oriental scholar, M. Julian West. Okay, so they go over a couple of words that have the same sounds. And that's not really that important to me, but what is when we get down here. The permanence among the uncivilized people of the tribal and even of personal names is a doctrine that has not received the support which the evidence is in its favor demands. So he's not getting the attention on his writings about this that he wants, or that he thinks that this deserves. To be able to say these two Indian groups are related and I can prove it with their language, that's actually huge. It says it is well illustrated among the Hurons, as I have learned from historical notes on the environs of Quebec, so environments of Quebec, written by the esteemed colleague J.M. Lemoyne, Esquire. Many distinguished chiefs of the Laureate Hurons, from the time when Europeans first became acquainted with them, have borne the name Atsisatari, or Ahatsistari, the fearless man. And at the present day, it is the Indian title of Mampetit, an honorary chief of the nation, this Ahahahahaa is undoubtedly the Hasisadra of the Arcadians. Now, if you look up who are the Arcadians, these encyclopedias are going to say they don't know what happened to the Arcadians. John Campbell is telling you the Canadians, the land of Quebec, is the land of the Arcadians, a Canaanite tribe. His fellow scholars already know. They don't want this information published. This is why. Listen to this. The Hasisadra is undoubtedly the Hasidra, or whatever, however it's pronounced, of the Akkadians, of Ishtar, of the Kahitite, and the Hator of the Basques. Listen. The Hittite proper name, Ahashtari, which is that of the brother of Zohar, father of Ephraim, who sold Machpelah to Abraham, is almost identical in form with the Uran Ishatari of today. This is in Canadian writing about this Canadian historian that was well rejected by his colleagues at the time because his great discovery is in 1881. 1881 is between 1850 and 1890 when the division of we've got to tell them they're from somewhere else started to take place. Now, when Powell comes around in 1890, he has control of the Smithsonian, who in some degree, if the government needs their help in this situation or this situation, they have the leverage. So they're able to say, well, let's set it up so anything pre-Columbian, it doesn't exist. John Campbell comes out and says, whoa, these are the Hittites, the Kahita, the Ashhitsitar, whatever they're fucking called. Their name, their language, it matches the people of Peru. They also look alike. They both have the Mongoloid. That's not insulting. It's what they're. I'm Negroid. They're Mongoloid. Okay? I didn't say mongrel, which is an insult. So let's keep this textbook. So John Campbell finds out these people are the Hittites of the Bible that sell the cave to Abraham when he wants to bury his wife that's passed away. So technically, these people have never lost contact with the history. If their ancient ancestors sold the cave to Abraham, then the cave is most likely around the area of their land. Like, you've got to be logical about this. These people have lied and told you that everything from the Bible happened on the other side of the world. Open up Google Maps, open up Deuteronomy 34, type in Deuteronomy 32, type in every mountain into Google Maps, and you'll see it all within one section, one small section of a big giant state. It's in one small section of a big giant state. Utah. So, you keep believing your enemy. Don't be fooled. You didn't wake up and say you're their enemy. They wake up daily, go to meetings to say that you're their enemy. They pass laws and pay companies to wipe you out. Their famous quote, in 2011, we killed 11 million black babies. 2011, how many other babies were aborted? Does anybody know? No. Because it's about getting in 11. The 20 doesn't mean anything. In 11, we murdered 11 mil. That's what it's about. Pretend you're the king. You're the future king. 2011 was 5 years ago. It's 2016 now. 5 years. 11 million 5-year-olds were wiped out. I want you to think about it from that point of view. Think about, you're the future king, and that's your future army. Obliterated before they even got to put diapers on. This is why, listen, we all make some kind of fuck up. I respect that. We're not flawless. I can't see you. I can't point the finger at you. This is the camera. Black men didn't abort those babies. Sure, they knocked those women up. Most likely with no goal on raising those children. But black men didn't sit in those chairs and sign those paperworks to get rid of babies. They conceived out of lust.
Testing can determine where in Africa our forebears were from. Among those using the test to trace their family's past, Spike Lee, Oprah Winfrey, and actor Isaiah Washington, one of the stars of Grey's Anatomy.
Brother Washington, your mitochondrial DNA is quite common among the Mende and Temne people in Sierra Leone.
You just won on Publishers Clearinghouse. What are you gonna buy? Oh, I don't understand the excitement. I really don't. But he is an actor.
DNA testing can determine where in Africa our forebears were from. Among those using the test to trace their family's past, Spike Lee, Oprah Winfrey, and actor Isaiah Washington, one of the stars of Grey's Anatomy.
Brother Washington, your mitochondrial DNA is quite common among the Mende and Temne people in Sierra Leone.
Trace their ancestry back to Africa, a history totally lost to them.
You think about young African Americans growing up thinking that the history started with slavery. I mean, how do you think that impacts their psyche? We went through slavery. We didn't start with slavery.
To Vi Higginson, the prospect of tracing even a tiny fraction of her ancestry back to Africa was enthralling. 60 Minutes sent her DNA to African ancestry, as well as to several other other genetic genealogy companies to see what they could tell us about Vi's maternal lineage.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Kittle's company sent Vi what they call a certificate of ancestry.
Oh my God.
You got a diploma.
That you share maternal genetic ancestry with people from the Mende tribe in Sierra Leone. Do you know anything about Sierra Leone or the Mende people?
No.
Nothing.
People have been waiting a lifetime for something like this. Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door that was closed for centuries.
There's a place in Africa you can say that I'm from. A tribe. I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people. It opens up such possibilities.
But the problem is, Sierra Leone wasn't the only answer Vi got. A company called Relative Genetics found a match to a single person in the Wobi tribe in the Ivory Coast.
Different? Now, I got all excited about that, and this is different. Now, how could that happen?
Then a third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple Mendenka individuals in Senegal.
What's up with this?
And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches.
Now, this is interesting because some of these DNA testing companies that these people are dealing with, because they're dealing with a lot more money, these are actors and actresses. These DNA companies are testing live people. What does it say? Oh, one person in this area you match.
You could say that I'm from a tribe. I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people. It opens up such possibilities.
But the problem is, Sierra Leone wasn't the only answer Vi got. A company called Relative Genetics found a match to a single person in the Wobi tribe in the Ivory Coast.
Different?
Now, one single person in a tribe? Well, wait, it's a tribe of people, right? And that tribe's been living together for fucking thousands of years, right? But only one person in this tribe matched her DNA. Or did they find a grave? Or did the other people in the tribe not participate? You've got to understand, this leaves a big question mark. And next to that question mark, it leaves another question. And below that question mark, it leaves another question mark. More questions come up than are answered.
I got all excited about that, and this is different. Now, how could that happen?
Then a third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple Mendenka individuals in Senegal.
What's up with this?
And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches. This goes on and on.
My goodness.
So what do we know about Vi's ancestry?
Well, I don't know Vi, but based on Vi's phenotype, she's embarrassed about her heritage, so she burned her image away. She's got brown skin. I'd assume her hair would be wool, since everybody else that looks like her has wool hair. She doesn't know her history. She doesn't know who her ancestors are. That seems like biblical curses. And the Bible does say that the people that she does look like will be scattered all over the earth.
DNA does indicate that she has distant relatives in the Mende tribe, but she also has relatives in all those other tribes. So no one can say for sure where Vi's maternal ancestor actually came from. When I handed Vi the certificate, she got extremely emotional about it. She wept, and it
She cried at her indoctrination.
meant so very much.
People want to believe,
They want to believe they've gotten an answer.
and it's not fair of us to let them believe that we're giving them certain answers, because scientifically, we just can't.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest,
exclude you. He included you.
but we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though
You
you have the
understand
largest
that?
database, it's still small.
We have the largest database from Africa. Okay, so that means if somebody's related to you and they split from your tribe a long time ago, and your tribe went to America and their tribe went to Africa. Let's say you aren't from Africa, but you split. Their tribe went to Africa and your tribe went to America. They're only telling you your relatives that are outside of this country. They are not telling you the percentage of your relatives inside of this country. And it's not accurate. Listen to him again.
This is from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability.
Probability. Do you understand that? Probability. Probability. Probably.
We have
He
the
didn't
largest,
exclude you. He included you.
but we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns
About yourself.
for DNA.
And that's the rub. This business of genetic genealogy is fraught with limitations. For one thing, it can only provide information about a tiny fraction of our ancestry. Because we get half our DNA from our mothers and half from our fathers, almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and remixed every generation, making it impossible to trace what comes from whom. There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure. The Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called...
Now, something passed from father to son called the Y chromosome stays pure. And since you are the children talked about in the Bible, and they want to separate you from that history, they take your mother's bloodline instead of your father's bloodline.
Father to son, and something called pure. The Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called mitochondrial DNA.
Something called mtDNA, mitochondrial. You got 2 options and you opted for the mother.
Trace what comes from whom. There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure. The Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called mitochondrial DNA, which passes unchanged from mother to child.
Now listen.
Hank Greeley.
Here's the funny thing. Let's watch this again. Alright? Now, here's mother to son. You see how mother is above son? Mother, son. See this? Husband, wife, make son. Now watch these idiots. This is how you know when fucking idiots run things.
And half from our fathers, almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and remixed every generation, making it impossible to trace what comes from whom.
Right here, they forgot to make one more. To make the U. Now they're about to show you that female DNA go down the line from woman to woman to woman to woman to man. This is not son. This is father's, right? Father, mother. Father, mother. Father, mother. Father, mother. Right? Father, mother, son. Father, mother, daughter. They forgot to make another kid for the verbal explanation they're about to give.
There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure.
2 bits that remain pure. Father the son. Now watch this line they create.
The Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son.
See? They don't put no line over to the woman. Now they make the mitochondrial DNA line. Now watch what happens with this.
And something called mitochondrial DNA, which passes unchanged from mother to child.
Okay, so it's mother to child. They're trying to say it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. That's why they do the double line. But it's still a horrible visual representation.
Hank Greeley, a law professor at Stanford.
So they use mitochondrial DNA because Y DNA only goes from father to son. So when men get their DNA tested, they need to get their Y chromosome tested. When women get their DNA tested, they need to get their mitochondrial DNA tested from mother to child, since this goes Y DNA goes testicle to testicle. Think about it. Am I right? All right.
University has studied this new field. He worries that people don't realize just how many ancestors they actually have.
8 generations ago, both you and I had 256 great-great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Wait, you're saying that if you go back 8 generations, we have 256 great-great-great-grandparents?
Yes, it doubles every generation. So you've got 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and it adds up fast.
Here, like, let's just keep it simple. This is you right here. This little guy right here, that's you. It took 6 people over time to eventually pop you out. A set of 2 to make your father, a set of 2 to make your mother, and then they formed a set to make you. Each of them to be made, it took 6 sets. I mean, you get what I'm saying. You know, the set of 3.
4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and it adds up fast. It adds up so fast, in fact, that if you go...
Now, think about how computers work. Isn't this how memory works? First it starts with 8, then it goes to 16, then it goes to what? 32? Remember? Then we went to what? 32 times 2, right? You get the whole thing? We had 8-bit graphics. Then it went to what? TurboGrafx 16. Then we went to Sega 32. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. We had Nintendo 64. Then what's the next console game that we had? Do you understand what's happening to the computer? The computer has been started, and its memory has been multiplying. Just like it takes division. It takes 2 people to equal 1 new person. 2 people have to get along long enough for a new child to be born. At that same time, 2 more people have to get along long enough for the next child to be born. The computer works in the opposite way. Technology grows, and it starts, what? Duplicating itself. 64 went to 128. You can see where this is going. The math's getting too big for my small mind.
And it adds up fast. It adds up so fast, in fact, that if you go back 20 generations, you've got over 1 million grandparents.
1,048,576 to be exact. And in each generation, DNA testing can provide information about only 2 of them.
So you could be Peruvian on your mother's side, Japanese on your father's side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But
let me explain something to you, like I tried to earlier. When you look at the equation that they show you back here, right? They show you this equation. They show you the numbers and all this shit, right? When they show you this shit, it looks like an army up here. How do they find out? Let me go back. Here we go. Right here. How do they find out you're related to this little mark right here? Huh? Because it's a dead bones, right? Because they done dug up the ground. And they done entered that DNA into the database.
In fact, that if you go back 20 generations,
every archaeological student eventually has to go out and dig. If you're one guy and you find one settlement and it's got 100 sets of bones, then you've cataloged 100 bones. Everybody's that goes to archaeology to get a good degree, they've got to go in the field. That means they constantly have to go into new graveyards.
1 million grandparents.
1,048,576 to be exact. And in each generation, DNA testing can provide information about only 2 of them.
So you could be Peruvian on your mother's side, Japanese on your father's side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount?
It's less than 0.1%.
That's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know...
Did you hear that? It's less than 1%. They advertise, find out who you are. Find out what tribe you belong to. Find out where your home is. Do you understand this is fraud? Do you understand when all these people come on and start telling you their story, it's a fraudulent story? It's not their fault. It's because they're in the middle of being lied to. And they don't understand it. And that's the beauty of being a con man and committing fraud on somebody. And I'm not saying that because this man's face is on the screen. This is who they want to attack. In this fraud, this man or his company or the company he owns or speaks for, whatever it is, it's too successful. It is competing with Ancestry.com. It is competing heavily with 23andMe. It is taking too much money from the franchise that controls 60 Minutes and the franchise that controls these DNA organizations. This edge that they use with Negroes, find your tribal roots. Now, in my opinion, it's all evil. But they make this man, because he is melanated, they make him look more evil than the others, when it's the other way around. Like he said, he provides a shitty service, but people like it. But he's not part of white supremacy that exploits this. Because people in this system that are Caucasian say that there are people that look like them, that are Jews, that are not Caucasian. And they're running 60 Minutes. I'm not arguing that they're running every news. They're Barbara Walters, or whatever this lady is, she is them.
That was different. Now, how could that happen? A third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple
So, why would a news company like 60 Minutes have someone do not one genetic test, not two, but 3 different genetic tests for one show? Normal people spit in the bag once. 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 People controlling the thoughts of normal people make you spit 3 loads.
Mendanka individuals in Senegal. What's up with this? And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches.
A whole list of matches.
We get half our DNA from our mothers and half from our fathers. Almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and...
Japanese on your father's side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount...
So let me ask you a question. Have you noticed... This is a clip that's 10 minutes long. The only person that you've seen as a spokesperson or maybe even an owner is a black face. The only person that you've even seen the DNA test on is a black face. But who comes and saves the day? Caucasians promote DNA testing, yet they come and say, don't do this tribal one, because they're the leader in this, and it's 1% accurate. You do not see her on air with heads of Jewish DNA testing organizations, meaning all the rest. You do not see her doing interviews with her own people saying, you're selling a shitty product that is 1% accurate, if that.
It's less than 0.1%.
That's pretty teeny.
I'm sorry, 0.1%. That's a tenth. Okay, let's hear the rest.
But for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
Now, the author shows you this is what a man from Fiji looks like. See his afro? Here he shows you a Cleveland Indian baseball player. Then he shows you someone from Senegal. Now, we have heard people today say that they were from West Africa, Senegal. Excuse me, I said it wrong first time. Now, most of us do not have skin tones like that. Most of us do have skin tones like that. Most of us keep our hair short like that. Yet, all of us, our hair grow like that. We are being groomed into this image when this is the true nature of us. We have denounced our own image because we have been taught we're from Africa. And Africans' hair just doesn't grow like ours. Not the ones with afros, and not the ones with non-afros. Now, I've shown you, well, here's someone from Senegal. Alright, yes, we have plenty of brothers that look like that. But here's LeBron James. And here's somebody from Papua New Guinea. Excuse me, New Guinea. This is when they took you off your land and scattered you to the islands. Papua New Guinea. And this author states African Americans don't come from Africa. They're indigenous to America. Isn't it funny? Europeans and Africans pushed that Christianity shit, and they pushed it on to the Americans. The browns and the reds. So, I'm sure we're close to the end of the video. I'm sure time is running out as I speak. So look, pretty sure I've done one of these DNA videos before. You know, it all blurs together anymore. So, you can see DNA isn't really telling you too much about yourself today. It's not really telling you too much about yourself in history unless you understand history. Now, if you understand history enough that you're out of Africa, then these things just support that and only that. But if you respect this Bible that most of you claim that you do, if you read the Old Testament, you can clearly see that the children of Israel went from one land and it took them 40 years to walk to a whole different land. That land, today we can see that it's Utah. Through history, they tell you that hunter-gatherers came across a land bridge in Alaska. This is the same group that is written about in the Bible that's traveling for 40 years. Now, you can take your beliefs and you can take your science and you know what you can do with it. You truly do. There isn't truly a benefit from DNA testing right now. DNA testing puts your blood in a database of live people. That's all it does. Each of these people I showed you are related to people that are alive here in the States, in Mexico, and in South America, and in Canada. Not one of those tests revealed anything that had to do with their vicinity. There are ancient remains that have been found all throughout America. From Canada, even with the Hittites, as I read John Campbell to you for like the 8th or 9th time. From Canada to Louisiana, all the way down to South America. All kinds of ancient bones. The Mexicans are created from the rape of the slaves by the Spaniards. And even their blood doesn't come back as black people. Comes up from Africa. These people ain't never seen Africa, ain't never been to Africa. Can barely say Africa. Their blood comes back. It's part African, but mainly European. Well, at some point, you've got to say, why is this happening? Why, when I do my DNA result, does it only come up as I am African? Why, when I do my DNA result, it doesn't show me anyone that lives around me? It only shows me far off countries. Why, when I do my DNA results, do I get lab codes? These are really important questions. Now, you might not think $100 is that much. How long does it take you to earn $100? I want you to think about that. I put that Kobe Bryant video on. Take him off for a couple of minutes. He's already up to $100. Alright? But you and me, it takes us a little bit to earn $100. Now I want you to think about something. Randomly, all over the world, different people see these little DNA test things, right? And they always think, ooh, think about what they say in the commercials. Find out your past. Reveal all this history to yourself, about yourself. Less than 0.1% results. This is the top dude. Because all these black slaves have money to dispense. Now think about this. Separate thought. If you need a minute, pause it. I know it's been long. How much does a pair of shoes cost? How much a pair of Michael Jordan shoes cost? It costs what? 100, 20, 150, 180 bucks. 180 bucks you get a pair of shoes. For 90 bucks you get your heritage, right? You get some peek in the past. That's what they say. For 100 bucks you get a peek in the past, you get a diploma, right? You get your DNA now in a database. So here's the thing. Only people that are tennis shoe whore minded, tennis shoe whores buy shoes. Everybody in the world wants to know about DNA. Who's making more money? These guys, these con men are making so much money hand over fist. Because poor saps will throw $100 at it. They get the same results. One person's was a little bit different. They got the same results. You're making these people rich. Because all they're doing is they're taking your sample and sending it to the lab and paying the lab technicians 40, 50 bucks. And then they're sending those lab results back, which they can't fucking read, and they send those lab results right to you, and you can't read. That's all that's happening. You're paying a middleman to send it to the lab. You buy a bag of weed. Do you go and you buy 5 ounces, or do you just buy a little bit at a time? Half ounce, ounce. Well, there's that middleman that you always call, and he goes and buys 5 to 10 ounces off the guy with 100 ounces. The guy with 100 ounces won't deal with you because you're just buying half ounce or 1. It'll take him forever to get rid of 100 ounces. He wants to get rid of 5, 10, 20 ounces at a time. So he won't deal with you. Same thing, the lab technician won't deal with you, but they'll deal with these companies, and these companies will charge you these insane prices to give you 0.1%. You understand that's 1/10 of 1, right? Like, point is like the 0 position, right? It's like next to the 0 position, and then that point is right when you go into the negatives, right? Right? Yeah. And then it's the 10th column, decimal point, 10th column, 100th column, right? You're getting 1/10. 1/10 of nothing is still nothing. I want you to think about that. If this has been lingering in your head, should I get a DNA test? You should really think about that. See, because look, half of something, yeah, you got something. 1/10 of nothing is still nothing. What is it? It was one divided by 0, right? It's still 0, right? Right.
The Brazilian finds show that the New World was discovered tens of thousands of years earlier than
Consommer.
The Brazilian finds show that the New World
He didn't say Africa, right?
was discovered tens of thousands of years earlier than previously believed. Certainly well before the time of the American Indians. But who were these pioneers? A much earlier wave of Mongoloids, or another race altogether?
Canaanites.
Clues to the identity of the first Americans are emerging in rock shelters in the northeast and southeast of Brazil. Archaeologists there have recently unearthed human remains.
Northeast, southeast of Brazil. Not Africa.
Prehistoric skulls were found buried in layers of soil 9 to 12,000 years old. They are the oldest skulls in the Americas.
The oldest skulls in the Americas. That means in all the New World, these skulls that they claim are 9 to 12,000 years old, these are the oldest. There are no dead bodies older. That means these are the original, not aboriginal, original, indigenous.
And this is the oldest of them all. The skull of a young woman nicknamed Luthia by scientists. Can she tell us who the first Americans were? Walter Neves is a physical anthropologist at Sao Paulo University in Brazil. He has been using a standard and reliable archaeological measure, the shape of the skull, to find out what race she belonged to. He fully expected Luthia to be a Mongoloid, an ancestor of the American Indians.
So, he expected her to be a Canaanite.
But then he fed the measurements into the computer.
When we started running the computer and seeing the results, it was amazing because we realized that the statistics, the quantitative analysis we were doing was not showing just people to be Mongoloid. In fact, the analysis was showing just people was anything except Mongoloid.
You heard him. Not Mongoloid.
So who was Luthia? And where did she come from? To find out, the skull was taken to a hospital in Rio de Janeiro to begin the process of reconstructing her face. The first stage was to make a three-dimensional CAT scan of Luthia's skull in order to build a replica. Was then given to Richard Neve of the University of Manchester in England. One of the
Now, they did all this work in South America, and they said, whoa, now we've got to take it to England. Now, does everybody pay taxes to the Queen and then she give a cut to Rome? Right. So did they send it to where all the money flows to? Right. So if he's at the University of Manchester, he is the top. You got it?
Given to Richard Neve of the University of Manchester in England, one of the world's leading forensic artists, to recreate her features.
This dude is the world's leading. you see that? Now you see in the background they got a Caucasus person and a red. Now you see this brown person right here? Now if we go back a little bit, when he first enters the room, he's got African black. We're at 820. He got the African in the back. African black clay in the back. And he got brown right here. Pay attention to the different skin resemblances in the color of the clay. These are for ethnicities, races. Now, when we get to 8 minutes and 20 seconds, he show you you got another comparison of other races in the background.
That to me is a Negro face that has all the features.
Okay, listen. I've done this video many times. On this video, he said that to me is a Negroid face. He didn't say that's an African face. Negroids and Africans are not the same people. This is the promised land. There is no separation. Every part of Americas is the promised land. They told you they found this in northeast Brazil. Negro, you've always been home. You've just been to the north. Hence they call the southern part of the northern part of America, North America. Canada is more northern than North America. Just to always let you know you've been moved from the south to the north. And all your DNA is the fucking same. All your ancestors died in the same places. They were all corralled in the same places.
You associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being a Mongoloid. It has all the features that you associate with a Negroid face. That to me is a Negroid face. That to me is a Negroid face. It has all the features you associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being a Mongoloid.
So you do understand that means that on this soil, Negroids were here first, and then Mongoloids came, and then as the Bible say, then Negroids came again. Say Abraham got the cave from the Canaanites when he was leaving. Before he went to Egypt, he got the cave from one of his servants. Before he went to Egypt. Then his children came back from Egypt.
Is then the face of a first American? Her reconstruction is confirmed by measurements Walter Nevis has taken of all his skulls.
The first reaction was not to believe in it, but as the results...
I didn't want to believe it. Hey, I didn't want to believe it.
But as the results, repeated so many times, and the result is exactly the same thing.
So, pretend it takes 2 hours to do the test. Pretend it takes 5 hours to do the test. And he didn't believe it. So he ran the test again. It's not Mongoloid. And that was his main concern. It's not Mongoloid. It's not Mongoloid. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Because all these freaking Indian groups he's seen here, to a great degree, has been Mongoloid. Even though they're down in the South America region, in the northeast, you know, not that far from Mexico, but they got all those Olmec heads down there.
They are very similar to nowadays Aborigines and Africans, and no similarity at all with Mongoloids in Asia.
So they're similar to African. This is why they're able to say to you, you're African American. Even with their science, they try to sculpt you into an African.
Oh, with Mongoloids in Asia or with American Indians.
When I was reading...
Oh, with Mongoloids in Asia or with American. They are very similar to nowadays Aborigines and Africans, and no similarity at all with Mongoloids in Asia or with American Indians.
When I was reading to prepare for this interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans.
Indians.
When I was reading to prepare for this interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines.
Senator in Alabama probe called blacks Aborigines.
For this interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans. I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans.
Senator. Most senators are Freemasons, right? They run shit, right? They're Aborigines, but they're not Indians, Beeson replied. Let's be the defense attorney for indicted casino owner Milton McGregor presented a transcript in court Wednesday from a recorded conversation that the Republican Senator Scott Beeson of Gardendale had with two other GOP legislators. The three were joking about economic development in predominantly black, so that's the media calling you black, Greene County, and the customers at one of the county's largest employers, the Green Track Casino in Utah, E-U-T-A-W. So the E is silent and it's Utah instead of Utah. It's Utah. Utah. Whatever, however they pronounce it. He says, "That's y'all Indians," one Republican said. He says, "They're Aborigines, but they're not Indians," Beeson replied. When squeezed by defense lawyer Bobby Segal, Beeson said he didn't recall recording the conversation, but he didn't dispute the accuracy.
With American Indians.
When I was reading to prepare for this interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans.